I live in my car and I have 2 jobs. I live in my car and I have 2 jobs. I don't know how many times I have to tell you, I live in my car and I have 2 jobs. Don't understand why you have to keep commenting, get a job.
I don't think the US government understands that, like, if they ban TikTok, we're still going to use it. Like, even if they take it off of the App Store. I just watched a video from a software engineer of, like, multiple ways to get around the proposed TikTok ban, like with changing the location on your device and VPNs and things like that. And I just don't think that these baby boomer politicians understand that, like, when I was 12 years old, I was coding in HTML on MySpace because I wanted my background to have clouds on it. I did not care about coding, but I still figured it out because I wanted my background to look like a sky. So there's like people like me, millennials, there's Gen Z, and like the oldest Gen Alphas are turning 13 this year. Like they will figure it out. And like there's so many other things that our government could be doing, but this is what we're wasting our time on because Meta hired a bunch of people to lobby politicians to convince them that TikTok is evil.
People will invite white people to the cookout, but do white people ever invite us to the country club?
Girl, these are the type of people that we have at our country clubs. We're trying to protect you, okay?
If you eat a whole Chipotle bowl, you is greedy.
Now, even though everybody in the city paid taxes, most of the money went to beautifying and the upkeep of the white parts of town, often at the expense and neglect of the black parts of town.
And yo, that still happens today. See, I used to work for this company where I did pipeline inspections. And my job was essentially to pilot a drone with a camera on his head through like sewage lines and storm drains and things like that to inspect for defects and damages. And then I'd report my findings to the city along with recommendations for whatever repairs may be needed. And the city would then take my recommendations and hire another company to come in and do the repairs. Now, it just so happens that this company would also be owned by the same group of people that own the company that I work for. And those guys were really close with the guys from the city who were responsible for making sure that these repairs got done, which is a huge conflict of interest. You see, because whenever the city got funding for infrastructure, the people that own the companies that I work for, they'd always get first dibs on the jobs. And that's not the bad part. You see, most of the work that we did was in high-income or newer construction areas. I'm talking about places with brand new pipe that rarely needed any repairs or maintenance. I'm talking about places where very few of the city's residents actually relied on that infrastructure. But we almost never did any work near the inner city. Not only did most of the city's residents live and work in the inner city, but that was also the part of town that needed our work the most. You see, if you ever drive through a low-income area and you're wondering why the roads are falling apart, yeah, it's not because of the residents in that area. A lot of the time, the roads are falling apart because the ground beneath is falling apart. A lot of times, the ground is falling apart because the pipes beneath are collapsing. And those pipes are collapsing because they were laid 100 years ago. So not only is the existing infrastructure old as shit, but it also wasn't built to handle the existing population demands, which leads to problems way beyond just bad roads. Things like cross-contamination can lead to sewage and drinking water, which can lead to an infinite number of health issues. And that includes mental health. And despite the fact that the entire city is paying for this maintenance, the work was only being done in areas that needed it the least. The only time we'd ever really do work in the inner city is if there was some type of emergency like a fire hydrant exploded or streets are flooding or something. Otherwise, we were spending the city's money working on brand new pipe. And yes, I got receipts in case anybody thought I was capping. You see this light right here? That's the camera that I would drive through the pipes to inspect for damages. All of this debris, we had just cleaned this out of the pipe. This had built up shortly after a hurricane. There was a lot of flooding that had washed a bunch of trash into this pipe. Now this, on the other hand, is not a result of flooding or any natural disasters. This comes from decades of neglecting certain communities. It's not a coincidence that the pipes that look like this happen to be in areas with high crime rates. It's not a coincidence that the more pipes look like this, the more we stayed away from these areas. And it's not a coincidence that these areas don't have enough funding available to fix these issues, but there is funding available for over-policing.